Third topic is children exposed to religion have difficulty distinguishing fact from fiction. Drew, your third topic you're reading tonight.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
milestone
thank
for
you
you,
for
bro.
this.
It's a milestone for you, brother.
A study published in
all
the
three of them put together wouldn't be as bad as that one you had.
You're right. You're right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
They're pretty long, but they're not that bad. A study published in the July issue of Cognitive Science determined that children who are not exposed to religious stories are better able to tell that characters in fantastical stories are fictional, whereas children raised in a religious environment even approach unfamiliar fantastic stories flexibly. In judgments about fact and fiction by children from religious and non-religious backgrounds, Kathleen Corvey, Eva Chin, and Paul Harris demonstrate that children typically have a sensitivity to the implausible or magical elements in a narrative, and can determine whether the characters in the narrative are real or fictional by references to fantastical elements within the narrative, such as invisible cells or a sword that protects you from danger every time. However, children raised in households in which religious narratives are frequently encountered do not treat these narratives with the same skepticism. The authors believe that these children would think of them as akin to fairy tales, judging the events described in them as implausible or magical, and conclude that the protagonists in such narratives are only pretend. And yet this prediction is likely wrong, because with appropriate testimony from adults in religious households, children will conceive of the protagonists in such narratives as a real person, even if the narrative includes impossible events. Children with exposure to religion via church attendance, parochial schooling, or both judged characters in the religious stories to be real. The authors wrote, by contrast, children with no such exposure judged them to be pretend, just as they had the characters in the fairy tales. But children with exposure to religion judged many characters in fantastical, but not explicitly religious stories to also be real, the equivalent of being capable of differentiating between Mark Twain's character Tom Sawyer and an account of George Washington's life. This conclusion contradicts previous studies in which children were said to be born believers, that they possessed a natural credulity toward extraordinary beings with superhuman powers. Indeed, secular children responded to religious stories in much the same way as they responded to fantastical stories. They judged the protagonists to be pretend. The researchers also determined that the religious teaching, especially exposure to miracle stories, leads children to a more generic receptivity toward the impossible. That is, a more wide-range acceptance that the impossible can happen in defiance of ordinary casual relations.
Thank you, Drew, on that. And Paul, since this was your topic, you want to take the floor?
Yeah, I mean, it's no big surprise that when you grow up being told fanciful things are real and happen, that you believe fanciful things are real and happen. So, I mean, it's not really a big surprise, and I'm glad that they finally done a study that shows it, even if they might complain that the size is not large enough. Like, I mean, if they somehow to try to pick apart the study and say, well, no, this goes against whatever it is, because they're going to attack it. Anything that reinforces the belief that, imaginary things and fanciful tales are exactly that, and goes against what's supposed to be miracles, they're going to get upset about it and try to attack it. So it's interesting to see how they'll try to counter what's been said in the study and the conclusions written.
Exactly. I want to expand on that a little bit. Yes, the sample size was 66 kids. Small sample size, you're right, but I think a study is a study, and we got to look at the margin of error if that's the case here. But I still think it's a good study, and you can use this study. And this study could have been conducted to offset previous studies the religious like to claim, which was stated the conclusion contradicts previous studies in which children were said to be born believers, which of course we know that's just total fucking bullshit.
Right.
Well,
I mean, if the margin of error is like 1%,
yeah,
let's say,
1 to 5%,
and your study size is 66, then you're basically saying that you could be wrong about any one of the people you're studying. Your study size needs to be over 100 just to avoid the 1% margin of error. And now I appreciate that they're even doing the study, but I mean, here's an easy study for you. How many 20-year-olds believe in Santa Claus?
Well, that's exactly.
It's fucking zero.
Well, that's exactly.
Zero.
Well, that's exactly what I want to expand to. Was a question I want to propose to you guys here was, why do you think people are saying about the study is like this study's bullshit? Because at the age of 5 or 6 years old, kids are supposed to have this sense of imagination, believe in God, but biblical characters, the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, and so on.
Yeah, you eventually
I think
grow
you're
out of
supposed to have
imaginary characters.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, yeah.
Because like when I was a kid, I used to pretend that I was one of the Marines from Alien, running around with sticks that I actually taped together to look like goddamn guns, running around with my friends. I used to think I was a Marine.
I thought you were going to say Viking.
Yeah, I wish. No, not at that time. If at that time I didn't have the beard, obviously that'd be awesome if I did have a little dime bag Daryl beard as a little kid, like in the Revolution is My Name video. But no, I mean you eventually grow up. So do I now think that the sticks are guns? Hell no. As a time as a kid, sure I did. But if you're being told, hey, believing in imaginary things that aren't actually real and possible, they are, then you might grow up to continue to think that, yeah, that's somehow a magic stick that imbued with some type of properties that I can kill people with.
A laser, laser stick.
But I know. Look, this will be all I have to say about this topic. But I know it's about like kids and whatever. But what you have to do is you have to look at the degrees of evidence for things. All right.
I think it's grain of salt issue.
You have to look at things like people don't believe in Santa Claus when they get old enough because they know to look at for the evidence, and then you look at like people that believe in Bigfoot, and then they point to some kind of evidence, right? And then you get to God, and there's really no evidence to point to, and they just have to point to like holy books and stories that were written down and translated it, and it becomes this whole, I guess my point is that the kids believing in fictional shit, it doesn't really change. I know a lot of adults that believe in fictional shit. Look at Alex Jones, for Christ's sake. You know what I'm saying? You look at Alex Jones and his hardcore followers.
Doesn't he just prove the study though now? I mean, he probably grew up with really fanciful crap, and now look at him.
Yeah, I guess my point is that kids believing in fanciful shit is not nearly as disturbing as adults who believe in the fanciful, crazy shit.
That's the study I want. That's the study. I'm sure there's a study, I don't know, maybe out there, but I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
It's already out. It's called We Elected fucking George Bush 1.5 times.
No, we elected him once.
1.5
times.
I gave him a half. Oh. Give him a half for the second.
Give him a half for his brother or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my point, because I know they're focusing on kids, but sure, kids tend to believe in wackier.
Their minds are undeveloped with knowledge and stuff like that.
Exactly. And that's why religion is harmful when you
of
do
course it is. Yeah.
Well, any kind. Christians will tell you that Islamic indoctrination is harmful, but they fail to see how Christian indoctrination is harmful.
Like the Jesus camp lady.
Yeah.
Well,
prime example.
Because that's the truth, and that's the right way to go, and everything else is wrong. So it's okay it's okay to preach and teach the gospel to your children, but not if it is Allah's word or if it's from the Torah.
No,
of course.
No, well, that's what I was going to say on it. Is pretty much what y'all have already said, because I was raised in a fundamentalist house, and it really does warp your view of reality. Because when you're a kid, like we said, you're going to believe all kinds of crazy, fantastic shit. But as you get older, you start acquiring the better tools for assessing reality. You start getting a little bit of like logic and stuff like that. But religion kind of separates, because religion really hinders that. It operates in more of a cult mentality. Like in my case, everybody in my family believed like the identical same shit about like everything supernatural. And all that, they just kind of reinforce each other, everybody in the family. It's like, well, everybody else believes this, and that's why it's so taboo to question it and things like that. And once you start accepting that the supernatural is part of reality, you can kind of see how logic goes out the window, because anything can happen.
That's a great point.
I was going to say, once you throw logic out the window, you vote for Rick Perry.
And that's why Rick Perry has been governor of Texas for like 14 years.